Hi guys, this is Jake from J&G, and I know I haven't done a video in a while, but today I'm going to be reviewing a game called Metro Exodus because I've just finished it after painstaking hours of hard work and and lots of ammo crafting or lack thereof actually. Yeah, so Metro Exodus is definitely interesting. I mean, if I was to compare it to a game, I would probably compare it to like Far Cry, or if you've ever played Dying Light, it's a little bit like that. But there's a lot of mutants in it as well, so um, I would compare it to Fallout as well because there are elements of that um, in there, and it definitely it plays out, and a lot of it is it's very tropey, you know, that in the story around it, and then some of it is like insane, but it starts off really strong. And I won't spoil too much of the story right now. I'll give you like an overview of the game in general, and then I'll go and talk about some more spoilery stuff. But essentially, it's based off Russian writers' novels, which are also called Metro. And I'll be honest, in the game itself, it shamelessly advertises these novels, and you can find bookcases. There's a particular level springs to mind, and there are these. There's a bookcase, and it's got like tons of his books on the bookcase, and it just struck me as really kind of egotistical. But like, yeah, so it's based off books, and um, before each level, you get this overview of it follows loose. I don't want to say loosely because I've never read the book, but it follows the format of one of those books, and past games have done as well. So it's just going through the novels, and this one follows that format. So each level is based off a particular chapter or part of the book. So I think so anyway. So it's gameplay wise, it's a really nice range of weapons. Um, uh, Graphically, it's beautiful. I mean, there's so many opportunities to take great screenshots and stuff. Now, I will say about the story. Personally, it's I would say it starts off interesting, and I mean the opener for it is fantastic, but as it progresses, um, certainly the levels for me anyway got a bit kind of more like there's a particular level which I thought, oh, this is just, too kind of corridory, almost like, and I kept seeing the same assets used in this mission, and it's like under subterranean, and yeah, there was there was definitely bits of it which became too a bit formulaic for me, um, but then there were bits of it that were completely different, and really surprised me as well. So it definitely um, delivers on fun, exciting bits. But I would say there is an issue in the game. I would say overall about crafting, where sometimes you can go because you need to stock up on ammo and keep crafting ammo, or else you run out of med kits as well, so you won't be able to heal yourself. And I think there's entire sections where there aren't any workbenches, and you're just left without ammo, without med kits, and you're just, you're sort of stumbling through the game, getting beaten up at every turn, and it can be really frustrating. And especially because the loading screens every time you die are just neat, like, we just long, without cause. It's just like, I wish they'd cut down on the load times, But most of all, the load time when you actually start up the game or start a new mission is obscenely long, and I've never had to go through something like that before. It's just it's silly, and I wonder why the load times were what they were. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of range of guns, there's lots of different types, as I think I've said. But there's it's definitely combat wise quite exciting to fight a lot of the different mutants because they're all different, and some of them have different weaknesses and things you have to use, which is really cool and keeps the fights inventive. Um, but there were certain monsters which I kind of really irritated me as well. But yeah, for the most part, the mutants are really cool and they keep it different and exciting. Um, and the human enemies, like you're waiting for another cool mutant fight really because the human enemies are just the samey. The AI is intelligent, but yeah, you kind of definitely the mutants are the most exciting thing about the game. It takes you across loads of different settings as well, because Russia's so bloody massive. It's the size of a continent by itself, really. So you go through, or a completely different environment. A desert, jungle, Moscow. You start off in, and it's winter, and it kind of follows you for about a year-ish, kind of. Um, but kind of it's essentially you go through these different stages of the year. I hope I'm not spoiling too much there, but kind of um, you're on and you use a steam train you go on through the game. So it's quite cool, and there's lots of different environments. So as I said, desert, kind of winter environment, and yeah, so it's cool. It's really that's very cool, and the amounts of times I kind of stopped to go, oh my god, that's really pretty, or that's really impressive. Was There's a lot of times like that. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I'd give this game about a 7 out of 10. But yeah, so I this is the bit where I'm going on about more spoilers. So if you want to, it's probably if you want to play it for yourself and discover that for yourself, then yeah, it's probably best to sling your hook because yeah, I'll be spoiling a lot of things now. But yeah, so without further ado, in terms of this game's originality, it kind of there are. I mean, it's based off a book, but there's kind of certainly within the storyline, it follows you. You're called Artyom, and your wife's called Anna, and he's got a typical hard as nails, grumpy dad who, quite frankly, is like a nothingless character, really. He's angry, grumpy, and, very much a cliche. But that's true for basically everyone. The characters in this game, I'm afraid to say, are poor. The lines, well, they're just kind of, they can be terrible. And there's a line in particular that sticks out, and it was the moon, so beautiful, and it was this kid who said it as you were like driving back in this car, and it was like it was just like it's like that's the level of dialogue you sometimes deal with, and I've heard people say this is almost. There's one guy who said it was almost an FPS masterpiece, a first-person shooter masterpiece, and I was like, what? There's nothing about this that is a masterpiece. Now, there are bits in it which make you go, what? Were these guys on drugs? Were they taking LSD or mushrooms or something? They must be taking something because the very end of the game, you encounter nuclear irradiated Harambe, and then Coco joins in later on, and you got two of them trying to attack you. But I just found myself laughing more than being afraid. I mean, they don't have eyes, but there's nothing really intimidating about them for me. I just kind of found it ridiculous that I was running through the ruins of this Russian city with like two gorillas chasing me. I was like, well, where the bloody hell have they come from? You know, that was so weird, and I was like, this can't have been in the book, surely. Surely this wasn't in the book, because that's just obscene. So kind of, and essentially you follow this story, and I think they were going for a bit of a Dying Light-esque masterpiece. You know, you go through it, and kind of it follows you and Artyom, sorry, and his wife Anna, who kind of gets a cough at one point, you know, and it's really bad, and she's like, and nobody bothers to check up on it, and like nobody makes a comment apart from this one Mengele style mad scientist you run into at one point. And like everybody just accepts it. And then eventually, of course, she starts coughing up blood because of this serious cough she's got, which is clearly a serious issue. And it's like, oh, you know, oh, well, that was going to happen, wasn't it? Because none of you checked. You know, none of you even seemed to give the slightest fig about it. So she, eventually, you're tasked to go out and find this cure for this thing she's got. And it's like, I mean, I couldn't have cared less about saving her, really, because she's not really got much character. But it kind of, you go off to try and find this cure, and yeah, you have to go off, and then you kind of go into this weird trippy zone, which I guess was popularized by Far Cry for the most part, really. And it was like all kind of abstract, but then you realize that there really were like irradiated gorillas, which was weird, you know. Not to, I mean, the dialogue for the most part feels really awkward, and it's not just the quality of the lines, but the fact, and I saw a guy comment on a video, and it was saying the lack of ambient music, and it really shows. Like, the fact there's no background music makes the terrible lines stick out even more, you know, like grotesque injuries or something. Like, it's just the lines and the awkward scenes you have, and they try and build this like familiarity with the characters, but it's just kind of, you know, it's I think it really fails on many levels. I don't connect to any of them. For the most part, most of them seem kind of the same. Um, but you know, it's going through on a steam train traveling Russia is very cool. Um, the there's at one point you run into a massive bear who looks bloody awesome. He's massive. He's just this colossal bear the size of a house, which was really cool. And unfortunately, the boss fight with him in was really kind of boring and followed a very kind of similar pattern. Because of the issue with crafting medkits, which gets just plain terrible at sometimes, crafting ammo and medkits, you can't craft ammo unless you're near a workbench, and you don't see workbenches for ages sometimes. So it was kind of like I was coming up against this massive mutant bear, and all he had to do was swipe me once, and I was dead. You know, which probably seems normal for a massive mutant bear with massive claws, but in my case, I had sort of yeah, I just kept dying at one hit. So I ended up using this cheesy exploit where I jumped behind a rock and just shot him. Because I couldn't do it normally. And there are a lot of moments where this game is just poorly designed to cater for people. I was on normal and I found myself running out of ammo loads and health. And it was just more stress than it was worth sometimes. I mean, there was this particular section called the Putrid Corridor or something. And there are these horrible worms that just spit acid at you, and with no bullets or anything. It was so hard to get through this area, you know. It was just like, And I didn't understand how they expected me to do it really. Um, so this game does struggle from a lack of identity to an extent, because sometimes you're going through and it feels like one type of game, and then you go through to another part and it's completely different. It's changed tact. All of a sudden, you're going from this uh, kind of happy-go-lucky game to this game where every second counts and someone's dying and everybody's dying and somebody's paralyzed and someone's really angry at you because they're paralyzed because you knocked out a guy who was threatening you, and he had his gun raised, and in that split second, because you knocked a guy out who was shooting you a moment later, but just because you killed his mate, he decided to surrender at that exact moment. You knocked him out, right? And then suddenly everybody hates you and calls you a murderer. And then this woman called Olga decides to start to hate you. And then your mate, not really mate, I wouldn't say that because he hasn't got any personality, gets shot in the back and calls you a bastard for the rest of the game, right? This is just, it's poor writing, poor story design, but I can't blame, it's not the writer's fault. I presume it's the book's fault. But the books are kind of popular, so I mean, the game designers have to take, because it's so much different visualizing this stuff and minimizing it into like small baby-sized chunks for level design and all that stuff for just one video game. So it can't really, I'm not going to blame the writer for it. I just think the game design team here were trying to do too much, and it ended up just kind of being a bit of a mess. I mean, there's some really cool moments in this game, and it's definitely worth. I think it's worth a good look at to see whether you'd like it or not. But I would not. I think there's probably better games out at the moment, and it kind of it left something to be desired, I think, in many departments. It wasn't to say I didn't have fun with it, but it really frustrated me when I'd be stuck. There's another segment where I was stuck on this in this fortress, and I had to try and kill these guys, and I was all alone in this high up fortress, and people were coming at me, and they were coming at me, and it was just me, and I hadn't got barely any bullets. There was a massive heavy guy who came out with like a chain gun, like a machine gun, and I was like, oh, how am I supposed to do this? I've got barely any health, barely any bullets, and it was really difficult. But it felt good once I'd done it, and I felt accomplished. But I couldn't help feeling that it was one of those sections where, I just didn't feel like I had enough opportunity to prepare for that. So, yeah, as I said, this game I'd give it about a 7, but it's definitely got a lot of flaws as well. So, yeah, it's not a masterpiece, I don't think, by any means. I think the writing's clunky, but so sometimes it can be really cool. So, yeah, definitely just do your research before deciding to buy it, because it's definitely subjective, and some people love it. I mean, I've seen some ratings that I personally think are a bit ludicrous, like it's got a 9 on Steam or something, or some really really high praise. But yeah, just do your homework a bit before you buy it, because it's yeah, it's definitely a bit crazy. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and yeah, all right, bye.